Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm really sorry that I'm out today. I got to take care of some family stuff, and I apologize for that. Today, your bill is going to, we're going to work on our next bill. That bill is going to be AB number 3, a state bill. This will be a state bill considering an act, a law, to allow Wisconsin schools to randomly drug test their students in grades 9 through 12, which means that schools be able to randomly pull people for drug tests in their high schools. We call this bill helping students to just say no. And here's why. Our issue right now is that heroin and opioids are an epidemic here in the state of Wisconsin. Surveys show that of current adult addicts, over 90% of them started first using drugs as teenagers. And to head off this issue, we must address the problem head on where it begins, and that is in our schools. To better identify students who are using drugs, we're going to allow and require schools to randomly drug test their students who register for classes. And that way, we can notify parents and notify counseling to begin a student's road to recovery. So the big problem here is that over the last decade, Wisconsin has seen an increase in drug overdose fatalities. Department of Health shows a 70% increase in drug overdoses over the last 10 years, with 872 people in Wisconsin pass away due to drug overdose in 2015, and that number going up over time. In that same time period, last 10 years, according to the USA Today, the number of youth overdose deaths in Wisconsin has quadrupled. That means they've multiplied times 4. It's an issue that our schools are facing front and center on a daily basis, and we have to try and address now. The state and schools do have a responsibility to keep students safe and prepare them for a healthy and productive life. And so that way the schools must take on this responsibility now of being aware of student drug use so they can help students fight that addiction. So the reason we're looking at the high school level is that according to drugabuse.org, adolescents' brains and bodies are still developing. This makes them really vulnerable for the harmful effects of drug use. Most kids don't use drugs, and we know that. Most of y'all are clean. But for those who do, it can lead to a wide range of adverse effects on behavior and health. So in the short term, you can see impacting person's judgment, resulting in accidents, poor performance of school activities, other unplanned risk behavior, and of course, the risk of overdose. In the long term, we see poor academic outcomes, dropping out, mood changes like depression, anxiety, paranoia, psychosis, family problems worsened by drugs. So the sooner that we as a school and the Wisconsin schools can identify who's using drugs, the better chance we'll have in conquering that addiction. So by passing this bill, we're making it so that the schools can help the students fight addiction, and otherwise drugs easily take over students' lives. Now, obviously, addiction to drugs can be a huge impact on the addict, their friends, and their family. And too often in this state, families get phone calls informing them, or worse yet, they'll find their child went to bed and never woke up, often overdosing on drugs such as opioids. So, an opioid overdose, such as like heroin or OxyContin, that medication will depress the breathing. If too much is taken, it'll depress the breathing to the heart slows and stops. And this really happens way, way too often. A man named Paul Raditz got this call once. His daughter was given half an OxyContin at a party where friends tried to wake her up next morning for work. She was not able to wake up. She had overdosed over the night. Julie Berg found her son Tyler, who in high school, he started drinking and smoking and using opioids. And even with discipline and rehab and time in prison, she still found him passed away in his apartment from a drug overdose. And the question is, what if schools will be able to get him help sooner? Steve and Julie Lorenz received the call of their 17-year-old daughter, Emma, who had stayed at a friend's house. She had been supplied drugs by a friend at a party. What if the school identified that drug dealer had gotten them help before this process even started? So this bill will be an essential tool for helping fight the drug epidemic in the state of Wisconsin. And the more aware that schools are of this problem, the more we can help our students figure out what we got to do to help save our country and our state from drug fatalities. While this is not a catch-all or a silver bullet to fix drug problems, it's a step in the right direction to show we're taking advantage of a valuable tool to us to help protect the youth of Wisconsin. So, if we allow our school districts to randomly drug test students, we're going to recognize their addiction, and we're going to make sure that we can fix these problems. So what it's going to do is it's going to require that when students register for classes and parents sign off on that registration, that a school district, that they are consenting to a random drug test. And so a school will be required to have at least 25% of their student population tested during the school year from their high school. that being students 9 through 12. We're focusing on 9 through 12 as a way to just kind of hit that target population. So by registering in the district, right, and saying register for classes for that year, you think your parents do it on Skyward, they're going to consent to that testing, right? And then it's also going to consent to schools to use a what's called a hair follicle testing as the only methodology for testing. So it just takes a little snippet of hair, about a quarter inch, and you can find up to 6 months use of drug use within that hair follicle testing. Schools will be provided to give AODA counseling, alcohol and other drug addiction counseling. So today, if you would get busted for a vape or for smoking or for drinking, you have to do the exact same counseling, but this would then require students to go to the counselor if they're found to have a positive test. Also, it would also have to inform parents and guardians then of their hair follicle testing. The one thing it does not do, it does not give any kind of authorization for a law enforcement search, but it does provide suspicion for a school-based search. So could a principal go through your backpack? Yes. Could they go through your car and school property? Yes. But can they go through your house or through other private belongings? No, nothing off campus. Lastly, this bill will create a program to help fund this. So it's going to be, we're looking at the average test cost of a test between $105 and $125. Every school district will receive an annual budget large enough to test 1/4 of their student population. If schools want to test more students, they'll be allowed to do that, right? They have to pony up the extra money. Every year, we're going to put aside $6.5 million to make this happen. It's to be added to the Department of Health budget. And along with that, we're going to have the Department of Public Instruction and Department of Public Health is going to be in charge of making sure that this bill is taken care of in terms of co-enforcement over their legislation. Students who fail to meet requirements, schools who fail to meet the requirements will be losing their money they get from the state. They're going to see an annual penalty equivalent to $1,000 per student. So to show we take this bill seriously and make sure students do this, we're going to make sure that happens. The bill will take effect 18 months after passage. We need time to put this in order, get the funds set up, all those kind of things. We're talking about on either definitions. We have the hair follicle testing, AOD counseling, positive test. You understand what that means. All right. So your job then is going to be to, within your research you're doing, and notice I'm not going to give you guys any research now, you have to find stuff on your own, is complete your debate prep for AB number 3, which is going to be to go through here and think about, number one, how you feel about this process. Do you think it's something that schools should be doing or not in terms of drug testing students? Do you feel it's violating anybody's rights, their privacy, those kind of things to make that happen? So you have to find 3 arguments for and against. Usually I know it's 5, but making you hunt all your own sources down this time. They must be cited. So you're going to have to cite where stuff comes from, what website you got it from, put a link to that site on there, or whatever other thing you got. I need to have evidence like statistics, examples, those kind of things to help back up this process as well. Lastly, before next Wednesday when we debate, I need y'all to have a paragraph, a well-written paragraph, that has your opinion walking into this debate. How do you feel about walking in? Do you think we should say yes to this bill or say no to this bill? And so I want you to have that ready to go before you walk in on Wednesday so we can debate, discuss, and figure out how we're going to do this, to decide the question of drug testing. I'm sure you have a lot of questions on this. I'm happy to take them tomorrow or email me some questions if you need to. Right now, I want you to use the bill and use materials you have available to do your prep work. And feel free to discuss with your fellow students how you feel it would be to be randomly drug tested at school. And if you think schools will use this as a way to actually, stop drug use and stop drug addiction in their districts. Thank you for your time, guys. You can take your sub and get a motion to go to caucus unless you have any other questions, and we'll work from there. So I thank you all for your time. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you back here tomorrow.